VCY America presents Crosstalk, a nationwide call-in program discussing issues that have an effect on our families, our communities, our churches, our nation, and our world. Crosstalk, an opportunity for you to voice your concerns for biblical principles. And now live by satellite and around the world on the internet at vcyamerica.org. Here is today's Crosstalk.
And thank you for joining us here for our news roundup and comment on VCY America's Crosstalk radio broadcast. Friends, today is October 31st, 2025. On this day, October 31 in 1517, Martin Luther posted 95 debate questions or theses on the door of Wittenberg Church. He began the movement known as the Reformation, the Protestant Reformation. His initial objection was to the methods to sell indulgences, and 1521, Luther, at age 34, summoned to stand trial before the most powerful man in the world, writes Bill Fitter on the American Minute, 21-year-old Holy Roman Emperor Charles V. At the trial called the Diet of Worms, Charles V initially dismissed Luther's theses as an argument between monks. Well, Luther was ordered to recant without having had these theses addressed and responded, "Here I stand, I can do no other, God help me, amen." Well, Luther was declared outside the protection of law. He was kidnapped and hid by Frederick III of Saxony in the Wartburg Castle, where he translated the New Testament into German. John Wycliffe attempted a translation of scriptures into English for what was declared a heretic, and after his death, his bones were burned. The general prologue of Wycliffe's 1384 translation of the Bible had this inscription: "The Bible is for the government of the people, by the people, and for the people." Also in Prague, John Huss shared scriptures translated into the Czech language, summoned to the Council of Constance, where he was willing to recant if his errors could be shown by Scripture. Well, without having his issues addressed, he was declared a heretic, and he also burned at the stake. Martin Luther had given this account. He said, "I greatly longed to understand Paul's epistle to the Romans, and nothing stood in the way but that one expression, the justice of God, because I took it to mean that justice whereby God is just and deals justly in punishing the unjust. My situation was that although an impeccable monk, I stood before God as a sinner troubled in conscience. I had no confidence that my merit would assuage him. Therefore, I did not loved a just and angry God, but hated and murmured against him. Yet I clung to the dear Paul and had a great yearning to know what that meant, what he had meant. Night and day I pondered until I saw the connection between the justice of God and the statement, 'The just shall live by faith.' He said, then I grasped that the justice of God is that righteousness by which through sheer grace and mercy, God justifies us through faith." Just one other side note on this. Luther influenced John Wesley, who influenced George Whitefield, who preached the Great Awakening Revival in colonial America. All beginning with that, putting those 95 theses on the door of Wittenberg Church, October 31, 1517, and the 5 solas of the Reformation being Scripture alone, by Christ alone, through faith alone, by grace alone, to the glory of God alone. These principles emphasize that salvation, a gift received through faith alone, based on the authority of the Scripture, and ultimately for the glory of God. So that takes us back in history just a bit, and no doubt has impacted this whole world system way back from the stand where Martin Luther said, "Here I stand, I can do no other, God help me." Well, friends, I do want to give an update on our Central Asia project, and my friends, you have really come to help in this ministry of reaching many in Central Asia with the gospel message through the interview that we had conducted, and we mentioned it was we're accepting donations through the 30-day period that comes to an end next week Friday. So kind of like a last opportunity here to, if you wanted to participate in that Central Asia project. A couple weeks ago, we sent a check for $15,000 of donations that had come in from you, the listeners. Thank you for that. Just a couple days ago, friends, we were able to send another $16,000, taking that total up to $31,000. And as of just shortly before the broadcast here, there's yet an additional $5,300 that has come in. That will also be going forth here at some point in the not-too-distant future. Again, any gifts coming in need to be earmarked specifically for the Central Asia missions. Thank you very much. Okay, let's go to foxnews.com. As we said today, October 31st, also known as Halloween, and certainly our ears perked up this morning when Fox and others reported of the potential terror attack the FBI said it thwarted in Michigan ahead of Halloween weekend. Had a connection to ISIS, Fox News has learned. The FBI said today that it prevented a potential terrorist attack in Michigan, arresting multiple suspects accused of plotting violence over the Halloween weekend. Friends, there are so many ways and reasons why to avoid participating in a night that's devoted to Satan. Jason Pack, a retired FBI supervisory special agent, told Fox News Digital, quote, "The FBI often becomes aware of potential threats through a tip from the public, a local police partner, or activist activity observed on online platforms where individuals share violent or extremist ideas." Peck said that following this morning's arrest, agents are likely executing search warrants to collect more evidence, but had planned this ahead of this Halloween weekend. Now, friends, another warning came out today from Fox News. As children throughout the country plan to don their costumes for another year of Halloween trick-or-treating, authorities are sounding the alarm over drug-laced snacks potentially making their way into kids' candy bags. Last week, a Michigan police department issued a warning to parents after an investigation revealed several large bags of candy, chips, and other snacks that at first glance appear to be stored in a traditional packaging, but were actually laced with THC and psychedelic mushroom products. The packaging made these products look like regular, well-known candies and snacks, the Warren Police Department said in a news release. It's clear that these items were intentionally designed to mimic popular treats which any child would enjoy eating. The incident is one of many plaguing the country as law enforcement agencies throughout the U.S. are issuing warnings to parents to check their children's candy haul. Can I make another suggestion? Just skip that door-to-door thing altogether. Many just going door-to-door, soliciting to most homes you don't know. I mean, if you have a need for candy, just go buy a bag of candy, your favorite candy for your kids, have it as a family, and have a family night together. Also, this coming from Newsmax, Homeland Security Secretary Kristi Noem rebuffed a request from Illinois Democrat Governor J.B. Pritzker to suspend immigration enforcement over the Halloween weekend, calling the appeal shameful. Instead, Noem said Thursday that ICE agents will be out in force to ensure public safety and protect America's families and trick-or-treaters. Governor Pritzker says, no, put ICE on hold. We don't want officials out there. Friends, again, I just, it's my recommendation. Just avoid it. Don't go out there. Don't go soliciting for the stuff. Treat your family. Have a family time together. That's my opinion. FoxNews.com, Samaritan's Purse, led by Franklin Graham, has airlifted more than 38,000 pounds of emergency relief supplies to Jamaica after Category 5 Hurricane Melissa tore through the island, leaving widespread destruction, thousands homeless. Less than 48 hours after Melissa made landfall with winds topping 185 miles an hour, the North Carolina-based Christian relief organization deployed its disaster assistance response team and began unloading critical aid in Kingston. The first Samaritan's Purse cargo flight from their airlift response center carried 1,500 family kits filled with tarps, ropes, solar lights, jerry cans, and water filters. A second flight scheduled to depart today, carrying the community water filtration systems capable of providing clean water to 10,000 people a day, along with additional supplies and medical teams. Be praying. So many negatively impacted, and there have been many, many lives lost through this hurricane as it has hit many various islands. From Breitbart, left-wing TikTokers are shamelessly promoting rioting and stealing as a pause of food stamps or the SNAP benefits looms due to the government shutdown. A man fuming over an apparent increase in loss prevention employees at Walmart took to social media to call on others to join him in holding down and fighting security to help people steal. Unbelievable, friends, the shameless TikTok videos that are going up there. It just became the Help People Steal November. It just became Help People Live November, the man ranted in a video. The U.S. Department of Agriculture recently announced that SNAP funds would run out due to the current lapse in appropriations, stating that there will be insufficient funds to pay full November SNAP benefits to the approximately 42 million individuals on the program. Countless videos promoting violence and unrest have been plaguing social media sites since the USDA warning. And friends, it's atrocious to see the warnings and the threats that are being made because of the SNAP card not being renewed. Friends, the government shutdown has taken place. There's been a continuing resolution that's been voted down time after time. OANN.com reporting New York Governor Kathy Hochul has declared a state of emergency to financially support food banks as the government shutdown threatens the food aid program. The governor declared the state of emergency yesterday, issuing $65 million to assist the food banks. Data from the U.S. Department of Agriculture shows that the state of New York receives nearly $650 million from the federal government for SNAP benefits every month. New York is not the only state that's put certain measures into place. Oregon Governor Tina Kotek directed $5 million to food banks and declared a 60-day food security emergency. Virginia Governor Glenn Youngkin has also said that his state will pull from surplus funds to cover up 1 month of SNAP benefits. SNAP benefits for the U.S. cost about $8 billion per month. Senate Democrats have voted against the funding bill that would end the shutdown at least 13 times. And friends, it's really amazing to see what's taking place. I don't have time to air it right now, but I will right after the break. Even Chris Cuomo devoted a segment on News Nation to call out Democrats for peddling the farce about the Schumer shutdown. Hakeem Jeffries claims that the GOP bill to reopen the government is not a clean continuing resolution. And Cuomo says it is. I'll play that here in the next segment. But from the dissenter, they point out in 1906, Alfred Henry Lewis stated there are only 9 meals between mankind and anarchy. 3 days without food will often turn friend against friend, neighbor against neighbor, and in some cases, relative against relative. It will also turn decent people into criminals, and in some cases turn well-bred people into cannibals. When the fear of starvation is added, panic will soon follow. Is that the plan? Is that the plan? ResistTheMainstream.com reports that President Trump has called on congressional Republicans to invoke the nuclear option by ending the Senate filibuster to bring the ongoing government shutdown to an end. In a post on his Truth Social account, President Trump said he had reflected on questions raised by world leaders on his trip. He claimed that they asked him how Democrats were able to shut down the United States and why Republicans allowed it to happen. He accused Democrats of wanting trillions of dollars to be taken from our health care system and given to others who are not deserving, people who have come into our country illegally, many from prisons. He said Republicans would not allow that to happen and urged them to eliminate the filibuster. He said, it's now time for the Republicans to play their Trump card and go for what he called the nuclear option to get rid of the filibuster and get rid of it now, he wrote. Friends, we'll have that audio clip for you after the break. You're listening to Crosstalk on VCY America.
Back to Genesis with Dr. John Morris, geologist and president of the Institute for Creation Research. Dr. Morris, what formed Utah's Great Salt Lake?
Chris, the Great Salt Lake is much more salty than seawater because it has water coming in but no rivers leaving the lake. Whatever dissolved solids come in stay there, and as the water evaporates, the lake increases in solidity. It turns out that Salt Lake is really just a leftover remnant of a much larger lake called Lake Bonneville. When the Great Flood of Noah's Day drained off the continents, in places water ponded and became inland lakes. Most of these lakes have since drained either through evaporation or through catastrophic failure of the natural dams which were holding them in. Lake Bonneville evidently drained northward through the Snake River Canyon within the last few thousand years. Chris, all the evidence fits that back to Genesis truth of Earth history.
To find out more about creation science, Visit us on the web at www.icr.org. That's www.icr.org.
You're listening to Crosstalk on VCY America. Where this is going to go, I don't know. Sandy just handed me here from NewsNationNow.com. A federal judge today has blocked the cutting off of SNAP beginning this weekend because of the government shutdown, ordering officials to first spend on an emergency fund. We know that the $5.25 billion fund, not enough to fully cover the November benefits. But the judge his order prevents the administration from completely drying up the benefit for Americans. I'm not sure where this is all going. I'm sure it's rather fluid at this particular time. But one thing is sure, and it's being dubbed the Schumer shutdown because this is the same continuing resolution that Senator Schumer argued for and why he voted for it previous. And it's not me saying that. I'm going to play this clip that Chris Cuomo had on his program, in which he called out the errors that are coming from like Hakeem Jeffries and Chuck Schumer, who has reversed his position on this matter. There has been vote after vote after vote after vote to just continue funding the government as was. Not adding, not taking away, just continue as is, just like the last one. But vote after vote, they're turning down. Is there desire for chaos across the country? Here's Chris Cuomo.
Here from the Democrats is not true.
The Republican partisan spending bill that they introduced is not clean. Well, first of all, let's be clear. It's not a clean bill. It's a dirty bill. Well, that's all a lie. It's not a clean continuing resolution.
Listen, I like Hakeem Jeffries. I think he's got an amazing future. He's got better fights than this. This is a clean CR. What does that mean, by the way? Continuing resolution. Instead of passing a real budget like they should, this just says, hey, remember the last one? Let's just continue at those levels again. All right? Now, that may mean that certain people who should get less won't, certain people who need more won't, but a clean CR means that this is an extension from the last set of, in this case, Biden's spending levels. Okay? That's what a clean CR is. This is a clean CR. Wait a minute. Cuomo disagrees with Jeffries. Jeffries must be right. Don't take my word. Take the word from the Nonpartisan Committee for a Responsible Federal Budget. They say this is about as clean a CR as you could get. Okay? Again, it's a continuation of a March stopgap measure. All right? Essentially a continuation of spending levels from Biden, absent about $13 billion. But when you look at it as a function of the pie, it's literally a rounding error. I don't like that. It's a lot of money, but it's a rounding error. Again, don't take my word for it. How about taking this guy's word?
Allowing Donald Trump to take even much more power via a government shutdown is a far worse option. I believe it is my job to make the best choice for the country to minimize the harms to the American people. Therefore, I will vote to keep the government open and not shut it down.
And that CR he voted for is the same as this one. So what changed? AOC eyeing his Senate seat.
AOC eyeing his Senate seat. Isn't that interesting? That's Chris Cuomo's comment in all of this. Now, it's very interesting that Chuck Schumer, that was his argument why he voted for the CR, the continuing resolution, back some months ago, early in the Trump administration, and now opposed to the same one he voted for. That was Chris Cuomo on News Nation. Well, from the Washington Times, the country's largest union representing federal workers on Monday, hear that? The country's largest union representing federal workers has called on Senate Democrats to end the government shutdown immediately by passing a short-term spending measure. Describing the closure of the federal government as an avoidable crisis, American Federation of Government Employees President Everett Kelly said the time for political brinkmanship has passed. The Epoch Times reporting that air traffic controllers who missed their paychecks for the first time on October 28th during the shutdown gathered at several airports nationwide to ask the public for donations. controllers passed out leaflets at 20 airports to also ask people to call their congressional representatives and urge them to reopen the government. The effort was organized by the National Air Traffic Controllers Association, which represents nearly 20,000 controllers, engineers, and other safety-related professionals across the United States. Well, friends, as the article points out, the shutdown has strained the nation's networks of air traffic controllers. It's causing flight delays. It's causing cancellations, staff shortages, leave some towers without enough support, and it's troubling news. We also have from Just the News that the White House Office of Management and Budget yesterday confirmed it will pay all U.S. service members who are working during the government shutdown by using a mix of defense and legislative funds. The Trump administration expected to use approximately $2.5 billion from the Military Housing Fund portion of his One Big Beautiful Bill that was enacted earlier this year. The White House also would use $1.4 billion from the Defense Department's Research and Development account and $1.4 billion from its procurement account to cover costs, but not clear how the final $1.2 billion will be covered. From Newsmax.com, President Trump last night again weighed in on the Affordable Care Act that's been a major stumbling block in ending the government shutdown because Senate Democrats are demanding negotiations on extending the subsidies expected to expire at year's end. As I've said for years, Obamacare is a disaster, the president wrote on Truth Social. Rates are going through the roof for really bad health care. Do something, Democrats, he said. I thought it was called, wasn't it called the Affordable Care Act? Friends, it's been very unaffordable from the get-go. Okay, from Woke Spy, the Trump administration has identified more than $1 billion in taxpayer money that was improperly used to fund health care for illegal immigrants, according to the Centers for Medicare and Medicaid Services Director Dr. Mehmet Oz. The receipts don't lie, Dr. Oz said, adding that the administration is in the process of clawing back the funds that were misused. Also coming from Pamela Geller and the Geller Report, the Center for Immigration Studies data, or CIS data, shows that among immigrant households, about 53.2% accessed some form of welfare versus 39.8% for native-born working households. Far worse than anyone realized, only 18.7% of EBT or food stamp recipients are American, and saying 81.3% getting free food from the government in the country are not American citizens. We're subsidizing foreigners on the taxpayer dime, she wrote. 45% of Afghanistan immigrants on food stamps, 42% of Somali immigrants, 34% of every immigrant from Iraq, 23% of Haitians, and the list goes on. That at GellerReport.com. Friends, this coming Tuesday, a very important election in different states across the country. Some states have no elections whatsoever. It's an off-year election, but there are some very key seats up for election Tuesday, November 4th. New Jersey, a gubernatorial election taking place. Also, a gubernatorial election taking place in Virginia. Texas, filling vacant U.S. House seat for the 18th Congressional District. Georgia has 2 seats on the Georgia Public Service Commission. Pennsylvania, state Supreme Court justices have a retention election. Major cities with mayoral elections. We think of New York City, Detroit, Seattle, Minneapolis, Atlanta. A number of ballot measures as well that are taking place. Friends, there are things going on. I'll get into some of those measures, but New York City looks like they very well may be electing a Muslim as mayor of the city. We understand, and I'm looking at an article here from WND.com, with the New York City race for mayor reaching a fever pitch, U.S. Representative Alexandria Ocasio-Cortez went on what's being called an unhinged screaming rant Sunday while rallying for Democratic Socialist Zoran Mamdani, who continues to lead against independent Andrew Cuomo and also the Republican Curtis Sliwa. Just to get a little bit of her speech.
This city was built by the Irish escaping famine, Italians fleeing fascism, Jews escaping Holocaust, Black Americans fleeing slavery and Jim Crow, Latinos seeking a better life, Native people standing for themselves, Asian Americans coming together in Queens, in Brooklyn. It's on earth.
I'd like to know what you're feeling inside hearing those crowds roar as she goes off on that rant. The Daily Caller tells us that House Democratic leader Hakeem Jeffries has endorsed Mamdani to serve as the next mayor of New York after months of dodging questions about his stance. The minority leader issued a written endorsement of him, the Democratic nominee, in the mayoral contest less than 1 day before the start of early voting. That was October 24th. Early voting is underway. ResistTheMainstream.com reporting a campaign finance watchdog group has filed criminal referrals against New York City mayoral candidate Zohran Mamdani with the Department of Justice. The Coolidge-Reagan Foundation submitted the complaints Tuesday, alleging that his campaign accepted illegal donations from foreign donors. A review of his campaign finances revealed he received some $13,000 from 170 donors located outside the United States, according to Fox News. From SlayNews.com, the mother of Zohran once declared that her son is not an American at all, using language critics now call derogatory toward the United States. An unearthed interview from 2013 has revealed. And we understand that Zohran is leading in the polls quite significantly by some 10%. The survey October 23 through the 27th, with 911 likely voters, margin of error 4 percentage points. But the kind of a record turnout on the first day of early voting in the New York City, whereas back in 2023, October 23rd, 2023, early voters had numbered 15,418 as of that date. October 25, 2025, that number has swelled, not the 15,000, but 79,409. The Epoch Times reporting of the coming elections and voters in 6 states, California, Colorado, Maine, New York, Texas, Washington, will decide more than 20 statewide measures appearing on the back of their ballots. California voting on Proposition 50, asking voters whether the state should temporarily bypass its independent redistricting system and adopt a new legislative drawing congressional district map for elections through 2030. Friends, they already have in place that they are to have this independent redistricting system. But no, we have to we're going to gerrymander in order to skirt that, and want voters now to approve it. In Maine, voter ID and a red flag law are on the ballot. That's for guns. Texas, enshrining citizenship requirement to vote is on the ballot. Colorado, school meals program funding to maintain funding for the state's Healthy School Meals program. Offers free breakfast and lunch to all students. New York, state land use. Washington, investing state long-term care funds. And early voting underway in a number of states. We know also that there are numerous referendum that are taking place in various locations. And friends, make sure if you have something on your ballot this Tuesday that you are engaged and will participate in the voting process. And if you don't have anything on your ballot, be praying. Some of these are very, very critical elections taking place across the nation. We've got more news in our News Roundup and Comment coming up here in just a moment. You're tuned to VCY America Crosstalk, and we'll be back in just a minute.
The conflict between church and state dominates much of the 2,000 years of church history. But nowhere do we see this demonstrated as clearly as in Germany, where in the 16th century, Martin Luther sparked the Reformation. But in the 20th century, the same country forced the world to grapple with the horrors of Hitler's Germany. Join Dr. Erwin Lutzer in the presentation, The Swastika and the Cross, a 2.5-hour video journey in Germany taking you to Nuremberg, the Berlin Wall, and the early years and legacy of Martin Luther. As you watch this film, you'll discover what lessons we can learn from the past to avoid making the same mistakes in the future. The Swastika and the Cross contains a Blu-ray, a DVD, and a digital download, all together for a donation of $20. Call VCY America 1-800-729-9829.
This is Crosstalk on VCY America, and earlier this week, we had a wonderful interview with Jack Hibbs. He's written a book called To Take a Bold Stand, Resilient and Effective Faith for a Godless Age. As the culture around us continues to stumble blindly into evil and turmoil, it's easy to lose heart, grow weary in your faith. But what if God has been preparing you for this very time all along? You see, everything changes when you say yes to God's call to be diligent as you await the coming of the day of God. Call to take a bold stand beckons you to live a biblically based, passionate faith, resilient, immovable, and effective in our chaotic and troubled world. Jack Hibbs gives biblical teaching and practical insights to help you represent Christ courageously to a world in need and to influence our increasingly secular culture in transformative ways. Just wanted to make mention that this has been a book of the month at the VCY bookstore. He did extend this into Saturday as well through our bookstore. They have it half off. I've not found it anywhere less expensive on the web. The VCY bookstore is part of our ministry here at VCY America. The book retails for $18.99. They have it for just $9.49 through tomorrow. You do need to reach out, though. They close at 6 p.m. Central Time today, 10 to 4 tomorrow. The number is 1-888-722-4829, 1-888-722-4829, or go to vcy.com. Well, some more news here. We have two federal judges nearly simultaneously giving rulings today that orders the president to continue SNAP funds from the contingency funds. And the Trump administration has long said it doesn't have the legal authority to do that. Time to get things going again in our government, isn't it? Let's go to the Epic Times. U.S. President Donald Trump concluded his whirlwind three-nation tour of Asia, marked by high-stakes summits, major trade and investment agreements, peace pact, and a closely watched meeting with Chinese leader Xi Jinping on October 30th, reports the Epic Times. So some of the highlights, some of the takeaways following months of negotiations and friction between the U.S. and Chinese trade envoys. The two leaders of the nations met for nearly 2 hours. They reached a one-year truce on some contentious issues. The president touted the deal, stating that China has agreed to order massive amounts of buy soybeans and sorghum and other farm products. China would continue the shipments of rare earth minerals, critical minerals, and magnets openly and freely. The president also said Beijing would make large-scale purchases of Alaskan oil and gas. In exchange, the president agreed to cut fentanyl-related tariffs on China in half, from the 20% imposed in January to 10%. With that change, overall tariffs on Chinese goods come down to 47%. The president told reporters that the agreement will be renegotiated annually. So there was a flurry of rare earth deals on this trip. He signed deals with Cambodia, Japan, Malaysia, Thailand, South Korea, and Vietnam. There was a strengthening of ties with Japan and the new emperor of Japan as well. The $350 billion U.S. investment by South Korea. Also, South Asia at the center of U.S.-China power struggle. The first stop was Malaysia, attending the Association of Southeast Asian Nations Summit, and then announced trade deals taking place there. So a Asia trip that was filled again with high-stakes summits, major trade, and investment. Also, it's been confirmed now by Treasury Secretary Scott Bessent that the U.S. has finalized its agreement for the sale of TikTok. SRN News reporting President Trump appeared to suggest that the U.S. will resume testing nuclear weapons for the first time in 3 decades, saying it would be on an equal basis with Russia and China. The U.S. military already regularly tests its missiles that are capable of delivering a nuclear warhead, but it has not detonated weapons since 1992. The Comprehensive Nuclear Test Ban Treaty, which the U.S. signed but did not ratify, has been observed since its adoption by all countries possessing nuclear weapons, North Korea being the only exception. The president said, because of other countries' testing programs, I've instructed the Department of War to start testing our nuclear weapons on an equal basis. The Epoch Times reporting senators have passed a bill to revoke the national emergency declaration used by President Trump as a legal basis for his reciprocal global tariff measures. Unknown whether this will be taken up by the House or not. Let's see. Let's look at Israel. Worthy News reporting Prime Minister Benjamin Netanyahu vowed yesterday that Hamas will be disarmed and the Gaza Strip fully demilitarized, declaring that if the international community fails to carry out that mission, Israel will act alone. Speaking at a IDF officer's graduation ceremony, the Prime Minister said Israel has more work to do in Gaza, and warned that any violation of the U.S. brokered ceasefire would be met with powerful attacks. At the end of the day, Hamas will be disarmed and Gaza will be demilitarized, the Prime Minister said. If foreign troops do it, great. If they don't do it, we will. It was found also, the Jerusalem Post telling us that some of the Hamas terrorists living in Cairo luxury five-star hotels in Cairo, right alongside unsuspecting tourists, according to a report by the Daily Mail that tracked down the 154 terrorists released to Egypt at the Marriott's five-star Renaissance Cairo Mirage City Hotel. Some of the terrorists are reportedly looking to settle down in Turkey, Qatar, and Tunisia. Okay, from the Geller Report, we're here to take over your country and uphold Sharia law. The Metropolitan Police prohibited a march in London's Muslim-majority Whitechapel neighborhood in response to hordes of masked Muslim men assembled near Whitechapel Station, performing public prayers, chanting slogans like Allahu Akbar and Who Streets, Our Streets, and vowing to defend their community with no arrest made. Also, armed masked Muslims as they marched in London. Here's somebody who caught one to make a statement.
Assalamu alaikum everyone, today we're at Alta Bali Park. We're here to interview some people. So I ask some questions, brother? Yeah. Alright. What message do you want to give to the far right people?
The message I want to give to the far right people is we're here to take over your country. You can't stop us. You can try, but we're here to uphold Sharia law, and yeah, that's it.
Yeah, that's it. That's it. Just boil it down. We're just here to take over your country. And friends, it is just mind-blowing to see what is happening right now in the New York City race, in my opinion. I mean, it's mind-blowing to see what's happening in Dearborn, Michigan. It was happening in Minneapolis and coming to a city near you. There are going to be so many races across this country coming up in the next election that are going to propel those who stand by the Quran. Remember, as it says, to kill the infidel. Though they're not here to assimilate. We have heard those statements over and over again from imams and from the likes of Linda Sarsour and from Islamic organizations. And another topic, this from ABC News. House Oversight Republicans released a blistering report Tuesday morning that details their findings into former President Joe Biden's mental acuity and his use of the auto pen, calling on Attorney General Pam Bondi to examine all executive actions taken during the prior administration, as well as to scrutinize the actions of 3 senior officials who refused to comply with the panel's closed-door interviews for fear of criminal prosecution. The 100-page report includes links to transcripts and video of their closed-door depositions conducted with 14 top Biden administration officials, including 3 senior officials, Anthony Bernal, Annie Tomasini, and Dr. Kevin O'Connor, who invoked their Fifth Amendment right not to incriminate themselves rather than answer the committee's questions. The Biden auto pen presidency will go down as one of the biggest political scandals in U.S. history, said James Comer, oversight chairman. Interesting indeed. Okay, here also from the Western Journal, a transgender teen has admitted to planning a mass shooting attack at an Indiana high school back in February meant to take place on Valentine's Day. Trinity Shockley planning to plead guilty to felony conspiracy to commit murder, receiving 12 and a half years in prison along with 5 years of probation, the New York Post reported. Arrested after a tip was received that she had an AR-15 and had bought a bulletproof vest. New Jersey, are you listening? What's going on? Here's a story for you. The Christian Post reporting this week that the largest public school employee union in New Jersey is slated to host an event next week exploring and promoting the history of drag to interested educators. The New Jersey Educational Association, a nonprofit that represents approximately 200,000 educators in the state and affiliated with the National Education Association, will be hosting the 45-minute program titled Drag is Not a Crime, The Past, Present, and Future of Drag, to be done on November 7th during the two-day NJEA convention in Atlantic City. The program explores drag's history, cultural significance, and future, showing how it serves as art, resistance, and activism. I didn't see the word perversion in there. I don't know if that's a typo or not. Challenging norms, advancing LGBTQ plus rights, and promoting social justice and a community. That's according to a flyer for the event. Well, friends, I see I've got minutes that are waning down here, and far more stories that Sandy has provided for us, and time is going to allow. Let me just mention here, I was just in New Jersey a bit ago. Here's another story for New Jersey. A pair of New Jersey abortionists are planning to open the first all-trimester abortion facility in the Garden State, reports LifeSiteNews.com. NJ.com reports that Dr. Kristen Brandy and a nurse practitioner intend to open the Luminosis Wellness Collective in summer of 2026 to offer both abortions at any point in pregnancy and training for late-term procedures. It also plans to offer HIV treatment and gender-affirming care. This is New Jersey, one of 9 states with no gestational limit on abortion. How tragic. And it's also tragic when we consider New York and California pledging to cover Planned Parenthood's funds that were cut by the Trump administration. There has been a move, friends, by automakers to pull radios out of new vehicles, specifically AM radio, and the Radios or AM for Every Vehicle Act has been making its way through Congress. But this coming from townhall.com, 7 former FEMA administrators from both parties have urged Congress to safeguard AM radio, citing its unmatched reliability and essential role in the success of the National Public Warning System, and trying to get Congress to get this done. And then it was reported by Radio Inc. that after removing AM radios from its electric vehicles, Tesla is now taking the next step in its quiet retreat from broadcast, eliminating FM radios altogether. Eliminating FM as well. Friends, let me mention our phone number here at Crosstalk. If you'd like to comment on these or other current event stories, our number is 800-733-9829, 800-733-9829. By the way, in border control, well, even Bernie Sanders has been won over now, giving compliments to the Trump administration. Listen in.
If you don't have any borders, then you don't have a nation, right? In a sense. So has historically the United States done well on the Democrats and Republicans in protecting the border? The answer is no. Trump did a better job. I don't like Trump, but we should have a secure border, and it ain't that hard to do. Biden didn't do it. Those before him did not do it. We should have a secure border, period.
Wow. Bernie Sanders speaking. That story is on WND.com. And friends, a quick break here, and we'll come back. Our phone lines are open, 800-733-9829. If you want to comment on these or other current event stories, 800-733-9829. We'll be back in 1 minute. This is Crosstalk on VCY America.
For the Worldview Report, I'm Brandon House. Our website's worldviewtube.com. As you know, I've been teaching through the book of Revelation. I just finished Revelation chapter 21. You know, it says that the new Jerusalem that comes down out of heaven and sits on the earth, the new heaven and the new earth. Do you know that new Jerusalem has 12 gates and they were 12 pearls? Each individual gate was of one pearl. That's mind-blowing, isn't it? You know what I love about this? What gets us into the new Jerusalem? The gospel, the good news of salvation through Christ alone, right? Faith and repentance. Believe in the name of the Lord Jesus Christ and thou shalt be saved. What a reminder as we go in and out of the New Jerusalem gates, the 12 of them, and it's made with a pearl. The gospel is described as a pearl. You know what's great about a pearl? Man can do nothing to add to its value. That's why it was considered one of the highest stones or commodities you could own. Man could do nothing to make it more valuable. And that's the same about the gospel. I'm Brandon House.
This is Crosstalk on VCY America. There is something about speaking out when you see something taking place. And just want to commend what's happened way up in northern Minnesota as the Northwoods School Library had an assistant that they had recently hired, but now is out of a job after students, parents, and staff complained about sexually explicit books that were discussed and displayed in the school library. Genevieve Quinn Krebsbach was hired at the library to be an assistant on September 2nd, and all of a sudden had this whiteboard up with different books. Reports were made of inappropriate displays, books, and discussions about banned books in the school library. This is the principal speaking out in that regard, a note to parents, and evidently had posted books on this banned book list last year on things like genderqueer and other books that are very, very offensive. A whiteboard in the elementary section of the school library had a section of a bookshelf with the titles of 10 banned books. How many have you read was the question. And these were on some of these books on the list were descriptions of incest and sexual assault, sexual acts, drug use, profanity, LGBTQ content. According to multiple interviews, this new assistant allegedly used the whiteboard as a basis for a short lesson on banned books that she conducted with various classes visiting the library, allegedly including a 2nd and 4th grade class. But because parents spoke up, because students spoke up, because staff complained, not only was that taken care of about not having these sexually explicit books, but evidently that assistant is no longer there either. We've got Gordon calling in from Lexington, Kentucky. Hi, Gordon. You're on the air.
Yes, I just comment on the Muslim that's running in New York. It just breaks my heart that they finally got victory over New York, because once they build a mosque and take over, that's their sign of victory over their terrorist acts. And I honestly don't believe that our founder fathers believed in like freedom of religion for everybody, but just religion for that believes in Jesus and Jehovah.
Yeah.
Because they knew the Bible and how Israel would go back to going false ways.
Yeah, and thank you for that. Thank you, Gordon. And as Usama Dakdak would argue, that this is not a religion. This is a political movement, not designed to assimilate into our society, but to take over the society, to take over the community one at a time. And friends, that's really what we're seeing take place. It's happened by individuals not running for elections, and so therefore you will have those that espouse this ideology be elected to school board seats and to city council seats and then to a mayor's seat. I believe, if I'm correct, that every position in Hamtramck, Michigan, on the city council includes those that are Muslim. And even when a Christian spoke up at a recent meeting, was told that they would be delighted when he left the area, when he left the community itself. Another story here, another topic, and this from the Department of Homeland Security. Kristi Noem announced that a successful 287G operation with the Indiana State Police has resulted in the arrest of 223 illegal aliens on Indiana highways right near the Illinois state line, including 146 truck drivers. The operation took place in northwest Indiana, part of Chicago-based Operation Midway Blitz. The criminal activity associated with these 223 illegal aliens that were arrested during the effort, they found driving under the influence, drug trafficking, theft, burglary, assault, child abuse, domestic battery, prostitution, and fraud. Mary is calling from Dallas. You're on the air, Mary.
Hi. Again, thank you for your show. Jim, I just wanted to say I really appreciate all the topics that you bring and awareness to Americans. I had a comment. I haven't heard about the purchase of a radio network by George Soros that went through fairly quickly. That would take up a number of radio stations, I believe, in Louisiana. Do you know anything about that?
Yeah, we covered this quite some time ago when that first was proposed, and indeed that came under the Biden administration. And I don't have the exact number, but these are stations located not just in one state, but all over the country with Soros money, and I believe him being a major stakeholder in these broadcast stations.
Okay.
Yeah.
All right. I just didn't know if you had an update or.
No, as best I know, that the sale has gone through. So I have not actually looked into it recently, but I know it was back nearly a year ago in which that first came about. Okay. Thank you, Mary. Lori in Michigan, you're on the air.
Yeah, hi. Thanks for your program. I just wanted to say that you were covering the, I guess, Martin Luther, the Reformation, but something reminded me. It just reminded me of today in the world where we're seeing the great falling away and we're seeing all this anti-Semitism, that he started well, Martin Luther did, and then he ended up poorly when he began to become anti-Semitic, which is really sad, and it's something we can learn from his huge mistake that he didn't finish well. And we know that Germany used, and Hitler used his writings to propagate the Holocaust and all the propaganda and all that stuff. So that's just a lesson for us to learn today, to be very careful and don't buy into all the propaganda and the lies of the devil, and to know the Word of God so we cannot make that mistake.
Thank you, Lori.
Thanks, Jim, for the program.
We do need to know the Word. Pete in Milwaukee, our final caller today. You're on the air.
Hi, I really appreciate your phone call to you. I'm just really upset because the government of the United States doesn't care about the people that are the Christians that are being slaughtered in Sudan and all these third world countries. What is going on over here? We care about human rights.
Yeah.
What is going on with this, Jim?
Yeah.
I don't understand. I'm feeling a little sick. I apologize. But, I mean, we have to fight for our brothers and sisters, and I've been talking to God about this. I'm not blaming him. I just don't understand why it's happening, that we're not doing anything about it.
Yep. And, Pete, that was our whole topic on yesterday's program here on Crosstalk. And if you missed the program, go back to crosstalkamerica.com, and you'll hear that Todd Nettleton, a voice of the martyrs. And a matter of fact, this Sunday and the next, churches will be involved in the International Day of Prayer for the Persecuted Church. And thank you for that reminder here at the end of the program today. So critical that we be praying for them. Friends, our time has gone here today on Crosstalk. Some heavy news stories, I know, today, but I understand that God's in control and his plan will not be thwarted. The Lord's Day is coming. Be in a Bible-believing, Bible-teaching local church.
You've been listening to Crosstalk via satellite and the internet from VCY America. Views expressed may or may not be those of this station. For a CD of today's program, send a donation of $6 or more to VCY Tape Ministry, 3434 West Kilbourne Avenue, Milwaukee, Wisconsin, 53208. Or download by RSS or podcast from crosstalkamerica.com. And join us again for Crosstalk.